Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my prep series. I'm currently 16 weeks out from the Chicago Pro. If this is your first time watching, I am taking you all the way up to the show, explaining all the whys behind what I'm doing and the changes. If you didn't see my last video, I was 18 weeks out. You can check it out right here. I go through my past update. I also have my diet and training and everything in the description below, so y'all can follow along and see the changes that I'm making. That last update I did, I was 242.6, and now I've come down at 16 weeks out to 238.8. And just reviewing my pictures, like I'm a lot leaner, especially in my front shot. My waist is down more. I can vacuum better, better abdominal definition. Hamstrings have more defined. I can definitely see more, like less fat in my lower back. So definitely getting leaner. And I was at this point, last prep, I was 13 weeks out at this body weight and about same conditioning. So I'm definitely ahead. And part of what I want to do today is a refeed. So I'm going to take you through my refeed day, explain why I'm doing it, show you like when and maybe how you should be executing your refeeds. I also will be taking you through my other back workout rotation. So in the last video, I showed you my back thickness, had more trap emphasis. This one's going to have more lat emphasis. So I'll take you through that. I'm starting here with meal one, which I have been doing oats, and I switched to cream of rice recently just because it can get more carbohydrate for a smaller volume of food. So it digests really, really well, especially on a refeed day when I'm trying to eat a larger volume. I'm using rice and grinds. It's like a flavored cream of rice. Excellent flavor profile. It's pretty mildly sweet, which I like, and it doesn't have a lot of extra added sugars to it. Definitely great to do on a refeed. I increased this meal by like 20 grams of carbs. Total for the day, so I've been at 300 grams of carbs. The only thing that's changing as far as like protein, fats, etc., is just carbs today. So I'm gonna go up to 450 grams. So this meal is just starting with another additional 20 grams. But we'll keep going through these meals, and y'all see and get the explanations for the other changes that I'm making.
Hey guys, I'm headed to the gym. I do have to train a client first, and then I'm gonna train. So I have 2 meals I brought with me. And for this refeed day, for those 2 meals, I increased the carbs on those by like 20 grams. So in total, like for this day, my carbs have been 300 grams, proteins around 330, and fats around 30 grams, which I did, since this last update, I did pull them down some, and that kept me dropping pretty quick. So for this refeed day, I'm gonna go up to 450 grams of carbs, so just adding in about half. And why I'm picking this amount is based off previous preps. For one, I'm early in prep, so I'm not that depleted, so it's not gonna take a lot to get a good response out of it. Also, I want to just see the response too, so I have a weight goal kind of in mind that I need to make weight. This would be different if I was doing like the open or something, but I don't want to go eat like 1,000 grams of carbs and blow up so much that it takes me like an entire week just to burn through that much glycogen. So I'm being more conservative with this initial refeed. I can gauge my response off of it and then adjust from there for the next one. And as I get more depleted, I could probably do larger refeeds and get more of a response too. For starting out on the refeed, like today, for one, these weights have been dropping quicker. I look a little flat today. I can kind of see it in my side shots, in my rear shots. Also just in training, I'm not quite as pumped. Still get pumps, but just not quite there. It is something like for someone, if you didn't have the time like I have, you weren't ahead, you probably wouldn't do it. You could probably keep riding out this plan. Since I am ahead, I think it's a good idea to have refeeds. That high calorie intake is good for increasing leptin, thyroid production, and can just prevent resting metabolic rate from dropping as much as you're dieting. So I think it's a good thing to have in place. Initially in prep, they're going to be more spread out. Then as you're getting closer to the show, you might be able to refeed more frequently. What we're looking for off this refeed is, one, you probably might see an increase in body temperature today, or by the end of the day, or by next day. Kind of gives you a good sign like metabolic rate is increasing. You want to take note of like your performance in the gym, your pumps in the gym, Tomorrow, like, I'll take pics again and see what kind of change I see. I might wake up being a little fuller and tighter. You know, like, all right, that's a successful refeed day. You might see different things change on the scale. You could drop weight, you could maintain weight, or you could go up in weight. And all those kind of depend on what's going on physiologically prior to the refeed. So sometimes you might see someone, you might feed them more and they might drop weight and wake up tighter. Possibly that's showing you like the recovery status of someone. They could have been retaining some water. Cortisol could be elevated, aldosterone could be elevated, and then they wake up tighter and drop that water weight from the higher carb intake. So you could see that. You might not change weight. What you might just meet that energy demand. You might be right at maintenance and you might not see a lot of change. That could be a sign you might need to feed more. It also could be a sign too, like if you don't see a weight increase on a refeed and you're expecting it, that they didn't have their water intake high enough that day. Of course, you know, to store glycogen, you do need water. A lot of people I find, like if they're eating more carbohydrates, they don't drink as much because that food volume is taking up more space, and they cut food water volume back. So we want to make sure they are measuring the water and they keep it up. Another thing you might see is just a weight increase. This is kind of what you would expect, right? You eat more carbohydrates, you store more glycogen and water, and weight comes up. So gauging off that is kind of what you could see. Like if it's a positive increase in weight and they look fuller and they still have that conditioning, that's great. That's a good refeed number to be at. If you see like they look fuller but they spill over and start looking watery, you might have gone to the point where it's a little too much. Or maybe just monitor them the next couple days. Maybe that next day they would tighten up even more. And so that's a good thing to take note for when you're starting your peak week and how you want to carb up. So all these refeeds are practicing for carbing up once you get to the show. I think that summarizes like refeeds pretty good, what you should be looking for when they're happening and when you should be implementing them. Definitely one I left out was like if you're totally stalled out and you're not dropping any more body fat and weight stalled out, probably cortisol is cranked up high. A refeed could be what you need to keep progress moving along. So we are now headed to train. Like I said, we'll train back. And afterwards we'll continue. I'll show you some other stuff about the refeed day and go from there.
Like I said earlier today, I'm doing more of a lat emphasis day, so there is a little bit more vertical pulling. I start the session off, and I got this from John Meadows, and you just take you could do it partner assisted, but I just take a band, hook it up about 2 feet above head, and just pull the band down like you're doing a single arm kind of pull down row. The idea is you're trying to drive the elbow back behind. You're trying to get your elbow to touch your spine basically. Then also you're bending to the same side as well. And you're trying to get the lat fully shortened. You should get that so tight and hold it for like 20 seconds. It feel like it's gonna cramp. And it's just an activation movement that I do before going into my lat work. That's a good move just to get it started. So I'll do 2 sets of that on each side, holding for like 20 seconds before I move into my first exercise. First exercise is I use a prime handle and the supinated grip. I'm using like the 20-inch prime handle, so that's the width of it. It's about shoulder width, but it does a good job to keep your wrist and elbow perfectly vertical. And so if you have it to where you're doing if your grip's sitting closer, you're gonna put a lot of torque on the joint. It makes it very biomechanically in a good position to produce a lot of force. Use a supinated grip, puts the bicep in a stronger position. Also that little bit of internal rotation of the shoulder with the supinated grip can get a better shortening of the lat. I think it's easier to keep the lat involved in the fully lengthened position. In the fully lengthened position, I really want you to take note that I'm not coming up fully straight, like my torso at 90 degrees with the ground. I stay lean back the whole time, like 15 degrees. I don't move. You don't want to be moving back and forth. For one, you're going to use your spinal erectors to get momentum started, but also when you come fully up, you lose some of the lengthening out of the lat. You actually start shortening the lat again. So you want to stay at that kind of 15 degree angle back, and then just drive the elbows down, and you're kind of slightly depressing the scapulas. That's not the main cue though. I just keep the chest up, drive the elbows down, look for that full squeeze of the lat at the bottom, just like when you did your activation work. So in that, I work up to a set of like about 7 to 10 reps. Then I do a back off set, hit something a little bit higher rep to failure. About 12 reps is what I was shooting for there. That exercise works good for about mid-range for the lat. From there, I move to a seated cable row, and I stay with that same prime handle. I switch it to a neutral grip. It feels better position-wise using it for a row. And the idea with this row is you want to try to keep your elbows tucked in. You want to try to keep that forearm and elbow at a 90 degree when you're fully at the full contraction, peak contraction. You don't want that wrist to come up above the elbow. You start using a lot of bicep that way. You just want to bring the handles back, bring your hands back until the point right before you'd have to roll the shoulders forward to get back any farther. Once you roll those shoulders over and you flex the spine, you're going to take the lats out of it. You're going to be moving a lot of traps and biceps to get it done. So it is a little bit shorter range of motion, but with this move, you get more peak tension in the shortening phase. And so we're just working tension through different parts of the lats, and you can definitely hit different part of the lats fibers depending on your position. You can hit some outer fibers or even getting more to like the inner fibers, just depending on how you position yourself. So with lats, I think it's good to use a variety of angles when you are training them. Same rep wise with this one, I do something in the 6 to 10 rep range, then back down for a set of like 10 to 15 reps from there. Now that I've hit my lats, I did this on my other back day, but I moved to a pretty wide grip. It's about 1.5 times shoulder width, lat pull down, just using a straight bar. And I scoot my hips forward more than I do with that first exercise. So that pull down, that bar is going to come really close to my face. I keep my elbows really flared out wide, and I don't tuck them at all. That range of motion won't be, you're not going to be bringing the bar down to your chest. The whole idea here is I'm hitting more teres major and my lower lat fibers. So I worked on the bottom part of lats. I'm kind of moving up the back now. I think this shot is really what's going to improve like that back double bicep. And I said this in the last video too, but for me, that's an area that I really want that lower trap area to really come out and be separated. So next, hit lats, hit teres major, lower trap fibers. I'm going to hit at least one thing today that's going to be a vertical rowing with a little bit emphasis for upper back. So I do a chest supported T-bar row.
So headed over now for sushi, which is gonna be meal 5 for me. Hunger's definitely already increased today. It could be I just had a bigger gap in my meals from meal 4 to meal 5, but I am thinking that this isn't gonna have a big impact on my at least body weight. I think it's gonna really speed me up if I had to take a good guess at it. But anyway, laying out my diet for the day, I plan for meal 5 to do 3 sushi rolls and like 4 pieces of sashimi. So your normal piece of sashimi is like about an ounce of fish. So looking to try to still hit around 50 grams of protein. And then a sushi roll is they use about a cup of rice depending on how they make it. So I'm looking around 100 to 120 grams of carbs with this meal. And like I said earlier, like I mainly want to stick to carbohydrates because that's what's really going to affect thyroid and leptin levels and have some type of metabolic effect. So I'm not, and also I want to limit fats. For one, they're not going to be a good contributor to that response that I'm looking for, but also they can slow down digestion. I'm looking for foods that are going to digest really easily today. There's a place for them, but at least for the purpose today and initially, I don't want to add any extra fats. So for picking out like sushi rolls, I mainly stick to fish and rice. Some avocado's okay, but I really limit like the mayo, fried rolls, cream cheese that are added in. So I'm sticking with a little bit more basic rolls, and it always digests really easy for me. Obviously, if sushi gives you issues and makes you have any bloating, you might just need to stick to the basic meals that you've been doing your entire prep. But for a lot of people on prep, you're already doing fish and rice, so it's not that different. And it's kind of a nice eating experience, different, eating piece by piece, and you have different sauces, so it's just nice to get out on prep when you are able to. Close to the show, I usually tend to stick closer to my normal foods, but at least this far out, I can definitely do something like this. So I'll have this meal, I'll have 1 meal left, and then my last meal won't have any carbohydrates, and I will just go from there. Well, it's the end of my refeed day. I came back home after sushi meal and had my last meal, which is just my normal 3 eggs and chicken and some spinach. So that concluded the day. I'm definitely been a lot warmer since I've got home. I think it was a successful day, and I definitely feel like more vascular as well too. So I think this will really speed me up for the rest of the week. So next update, you should really see me tighten up a whole lot more. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. I'll leave my current diet that's on my normal days in the description below. I'll also leave the refeed day that I did today so y'all can see that as well. So check it out, look below, you can see it. Leave any comments, questions. I'll happy answer those for your prep, or if there's something you want to see while I'm on prep, I can show that for you guys too. So again, thanks again for tuning in, and I'll talk to you guys next time.